There's a certain feeling some people experience, but rarely talk about out loud. It's the feeling of being present in the world, yet somehow slightly out of sync with it. You understand conversations, but they don't always feel satisfying. You participate in life, but something about it feels shallow. You notice patterns, contradictions, questions, things that don't seem to bother most people. And eventually, you start wondering, is something wrong with me? Or am I just wired differently? When we hear the word genius, we're taught to imagine extremes, exceptional IQs, child prodigies, eccentric loners, people who feel almost unreal. But the psychology of genius is far quieter than that, and far more relatable. Because at its core, genius isn't about being smarter than everyone else, it's about seeing differently. Most people move through life responding to what's immediately useful, what pays the bills, what earns approval, what fits in. But some minds don't stop there. They linger, they observe, they question things other people accept without noticing, not because they're trying to be different, but because their attention naturally goes deeper. Philosophers have described this as a kind of double awareness. One part of the mind functions normally, pays rent, talks to people, lives in the world. The other part quietly watches everything from a distance. It notices inconsistencies. It senses underlying structures. It asks questions without clear answers. And when that second layer activates, life can start to feel strange. You may feel detached during ordinary conversations. You may struggle to explain what you're thinking without sounding abstract or unclear. You may feel most alive when you're alone with your thoughts. This isn't arrogance, and it isn't social failure. It's a different relationship with attention. History gives us a useful clue here. Some of the most influential thinkers who ever lived, scientists, artists, philosophers, couldn't work well with others when it came to their deepest ideas. Not because they hated people, but because real insight happens in solitude. When the noise drops, when the mind is allowed to wander, concentrate, and follow its own logic without interruption. Even highly social geniuses often made their breakthroughs alone, not in conversation, but in silence. That's because genius doesn't come from constant input. It comes from uninterrupted perception. This is where many people misunderstand intelligence. We tend to think that learning more, reading more, watching more, consuming more automatically makes us smarter. But deep thinkers have warned about this for centuries. If the mind is always filled with other people's thoughts, it slowly loses the ability to generate its own. Information without reflection becomes noise. Knowledge without silence becomes clutter. And in the modern world, this problem is everywhere. Endless videos, endless podcasts, endless insight. With no time to digest any of it, the mind becomes busy, but not deep. True insight often arrives during boredom, during quiet, during moments when there's nothing to distract you from your own thoughts. That's why so many original ideas feel uncomfortable at first. They emerge in spaces we've trained ourselves to avoid. Another misunderstood aspect of genius is isolation. Highly perceptive people often feel out of place, not because they think they're better, but because their internal world doesn't match the rhythm of the crowd. When you notice things others ignore, when you care about questions others dismiss, belonging can start to feel conditional. This creates a strange paradox. The more you understand life, the harder it can be to fully participate in it. Not because you don't want connection, but because shallow connection no longer satisfies. This is why many deep thinkers appear quiet, distant, or absent-minded. Their attention isn't missing, it's elsewhere, focused inward, on ideas, patterns, meanings that don't easily translate into small talk. But this depth comes with responsibility. Seeing more doesn't make someone superior, it makes them accountable. Insight can enlighten or distort. It can serve truth or ego. That's why the greatest minds were often deeply humble. They understood that perception is a gift, not an entitlement. That understanding reality doesn't give you the right to dominate others, only the obligation to remain honest. True genius isn't loud, it doesn't demand recognition, it doesn't rush to be understood. It waits. And when it speaks, it does so carefully, knowing that clarity matters more than applause. So if you've ever felt different without knowing why, if solitude feels necessary, not lonely, if silence sharpens your mind instead of dulling it, that doesn't mean you're broken, and it doesn't mean you're extraordinary. It means your attention works differently. And in a world built on distraction, that difference can feel like a burden. But it's also where originality begins, not in noise, not in validation, but in the quiet space where perception deepens and the mind is finally allowed to see.